Hey y'all, you know what time it is. Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We are back! We're back with Storytime with Chris. Hi y'all. So, I know that you missed me Thursday, and I'll explain what happened really quickly. So, like I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, leisurely time, nap time, work time, chillaxing time, whatever time that you take upon yourself to just ease into your day or relax. And of course, I do not own the music that you're listening to in the background, which is brought to you from a YouTuber known as Terra Vibes. Which, if I could show you what the video is, it's called the Astronomer's Library. It's gorgeous. For anybody that is into computer graphics or computer animation, that is an art. Animation itself as a whole is a gift that I wish I had. I really do wish that I had that gift to just draw what I see in my mind onto paper. I've tried to practice, I've tried to do it, it just doesn't happen. So, with all that being said, I always welcome you to watch these videos when you have time. Of course, they will be uploaded to the YouTube channel when I have time, and I do appreciate anybody's patience with me. You know, I do my best to try to get those uploaded as much and as quickly as I can. And of course, so like, share, subscribe. The link to the YouTube channel is in my bio on Facebook as well as Instagram. So please go ahead and check that out. I really would appreciate the support. No, I do not do this for profit. This is to get kids as well as adults excited about the magic of literature, the magic of reading. No matter how old or young you are, you should always be reading, whether it's a book, a novella, a novel, a comic, a manga, a magazine, newspaper clipping. You should always be reading. Just saying. I even do that with, my regulars that bring in their kids to the restaurant. I try to give them coloring pages or give them, wholesome assignments rather than shoving a tablet into their face. Because to me, that just seems kind of a haphazard way of, bringing your kid up, because all they're then going to know is that that tablet is their only source and means of entertainment. And they're not going to look to you for anything because you're not interacting with them. So that's not a judgment call per se, and I don't want it to be perceived that way. But I feel as though reading, coloring, being active in nature and going outside, being social and learning a skill or a craft is much more valuable than just staring at a screen all day. So that's just my thoughts on that. But you didn't hear me to blather about, you came to listen to a magical story. And we are back with Lloyd Alexander's The Black Cauldron, which we are now on chapter 3. So I'm going to take a sip of tea. I was out of town for my best friend's wedding. Shout out to my best friend, Samantha Grimm. Congratulations to Samantha Vice Grimm, and her wife, Shaylee. It was amazing. It was so magical to be there. I was the MC of her reception, so I was able to handle the music and handle all of the introductions, handle all of the rules and regulations of the ceremony, and making absolutely sure that everybody there who was either a guest or in the bridal party was taken care of. And it was so awesome to be put in that position and being given the confidence to given the confidence to know that I was going to do it right the first time. And it was just so awesome. And if Sam, if you're watching this, I love you so much. I'm not going to cry because I already cried on your shoulder at the end of the night at the reception, because it really did hit me that my best friend, one of my best friends that is very close to me, is married. And so I wish you all the blessings in life. I know you're probably out on the beach with Shaylee right now, and I hope y'all have a fabulous time. But that's another plug for another day. So I will have to warn you, my voice is a little hoarse. So I'll try my best to give you as much magic as I can. But considering that I've been yelling and screaming all weekend, it's going to be a bit much. But it's okay. Hi, Terry. Hi, Megan. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. All right. So the last time we were here with this story, Dalbin has given Gwydion and Dalbin has basically given these members of the council that they had at Caer Dalbin a task to be able to stop Arorns, who is the Dark Lord of the Cauldron born of death and so on and so forth. They want to stop his production of soldiers. And so in order to do that, they have to destroy one of his greatest weapons, which is the Black Cauldron, which is the magical artifact that Aurora uses to take the bodies of those who have been slain in battle and bringing them as basically zombie warriors. It's really, really cool storytelling, in my opinion. Like I've said before, this is pretty much like the Welsh epic equivalent of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which is Lord of the Rings is more so a Scottish tale, but we can talk about that another time. And yes, J.R.R. Tolkien, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, was born in Scotland. We can talk about that another time. Goodness. There we go. Oh, excuse me. All right. Actually, I'm gonna as much as I love this, I'm gonna switch up the music just a tad, and just switch it up for a little bit. But thank you for being patient with me. I know I'm a little late because I had a really long nap after work. We got very busy at work, and I opened at 7:30 this morning. I didn't leave until after 3. It was that busy today. But I'm very grateful for it because, of course, it's nice to be able to do for people and to just be able to entertain people and make sure they have a great time, especially during these wonderful holiday seasons. So, yeah. Chapter 3. Adion. At first light, the warriors made ready to depart. Taran hurriedly saddled the gray-silver-maned Melanlas, colt of Gwynion's own steed Melangar. Gurgi, miserable as a wet owl at being left behind, helped load the saddlebags. Dominic changed his mind about not seeing anyone and stood silent and thoughtful in the cottage doorway with Ilanwe beside him. "I'm not speaking to you," she cried to Taran. "The way you acted, that's like asking someone to a feast, then making them wash the dishes. But farewell anyway. That," she added, "doesn't count as speaking." Gwydion, leading the horsemen, moved through the swirling mist. Taran rose in his saddle, turned and waved proudly. The white cottage and the 3 figures grew smaller. Field and orchard fell away as Melanlas cantered into the trees. The forest closed behind Taran, and he could see Caer Dallben no more. With a whinny of alarm, Melanlas suddenly reared as Elendil had ridden up behind Taran. His steed had reached out her long neck and given the stallion a spiteful nip. Spiteful nip, like he bit her neck, like, ah, ah! Taran clutched at the reins and nearly fell. "Keep your distance from Isilmak," said Elendil with a raw laugh. "She bites. We are much alike, Isilmak and I." Taran was about to reply angrily when Adion, who had seen what had happened, drew his bay mare to Elendil's side. "You are right, son of Penlakar," Adion said. "Your horse carries a difficult burden, and so do you." "What burden do I carry?" cried Elendil, bristling. "Last night I dreamed of us all," Adion said, thoughtfully fingering the iron clasp at his throat. "You I saw with a black beast on your shoulders. Beware, Elendil, lest it swallow you up," he added, the gentleness of his tone softening the harshness of his counsel. "Spare me from pig boys and dreamers," Elendil retorted, and with a shout urged Isilmak farther up the column. "And I?" Taran asked. "What did your dream tell of me?" "You?" answered Adion after a moment's hesitation. "You were filled with grief." "What cause have I to grieve?" asked Taran, surprised. "I'm proud to serve Lord Gwydion, and there's a chance to win much honor, more than by washing pigs and weeding gardens." "I have marched in many a battle host," Adion answered quietly, "but I have also planted seeds and reaped the harvest with my own hands, and I have learned that there is a greater honor in a field well plowed than in a field steeped in blood." The column had begun to move more rapidly, and they quickened their steeds' gaits Adion rode easily and skillfully, head high, an open smile on his face. He seemed to be drinking in the sights and sounds of the morning, while Fluder, Dolly, and Cole kept pace with Gwydion and Elendil followed sullenly behind King Morgan's troop. Taran kept to Adion's side along the leaf-strewn path. As they spoke together to ease the rigors of their journey, Taran soon realized there was little Adion had not seen or done. He had sailed far beyond the Isle of Mona, even to the northern sea. He had worked in the potter's wheel, cast nets with the fisher folk, woven cloth at the looms of the cottagers, and like Taran, labored over the glowing forge. Of forest lore he had studied deeply, and Taran listened in wonder as Adion told the ways and natures of woodland creatures, of bold badgers and cautious dormice and geese winging under the moon. "There is much to be known," said Adion, "and above all much to be loved, be it the turn of the seasons or the shape of a river pebble. Indeed, the more we find to love, the more we add to the measure of our hearts." Which I will repeat that line one more time. "There is much to be known," said Adion, "and above all much to be loved, be it the turn of the seasons or the shape of a river pebble. Indeed, the more we find to love, the more we add to the measure of our hearts." Adion's face was bright in the early rays of the sun, but a trace of longing had come into his voice. When Taran asked what was amiss, he did not answer immediately, as though he wished to hold his own thoughts. "My heart will be lighter when our task is done," Adion said at last. Arianlin, my betrothed, waits for me in the northern domains. Arianlin. So it's Arianllyn. Arianlin. It's Welsh culture. We go work through it. We're going to try to do our best to pronounce things properly. For my friends of the Welsh culture, please politely correct me in the comments or message me privately, okay? "And the sooner Aurora's cauldron is destroyed, the sooner may I return to her." By day's end, they had become fast friends. At nightfall, when Taran rejoined Gwydion and his companions, Adion camped with them. They had already crossed Great Averin and were well on their way to the borders of King Smoit's realm. Gwydion was satisfied with their progress, though he warned them the most difficult and dangerous portion of their journey was to come. All were in good spirits, save Dolly, who hated riding horseback and gruffly declared he could go faster afoot. As the companions rested in a protected grove, Fluder offered his harp to Adion and urged him to play. Adion, sitting comfortably with his back against a tree, put the instrument to his shoulder. For a moment, he was thoughtful. His head bowed, then his hands gently touched the strings. The voice of the harp and Adion's voice twined one with the other in harmonies Taran never before had heard. The tall man's face was raised toward the stars, and his gray eyes seemed to see far beyond them. The forest had fallen silent. The night sounds were stilled. The song of Adion was not a warrior's lay, but one of peacefulness and deep joy, and as Taran listened, its echoes rang again and again in his heart. He longed for the music to continue, but Adion stopped almost abruptly and with a grave smile handed the harp back to Fluder. Which, let's actually hear some good harp music. Because I love the harp, and that is something that I'm going to invest in the future. No matter how old you are, kids, you are always welcome to learn something new. And never be afraid to do so, because it's always cool to learn something new. No matter how long you got to practice, it's always good. Ooh, there's some good ones on here. Hold on one sec. Alright. Okay, that one works. Give me one more second, y'all. There we go. So the music you're hearing in the background, imagine this is Adion playing Fluder's harp under the boughs of the trees in the nighttime where the stars shine above. And all you can hear is the harp playing and the crackling of the fire in the forest clearing. So nice. The companions wrapped themselves in their cloaks and slept. Ellidyr remained aloof from them, stretched on the ground at the hooves of his roan. Taran, his head pillowed on his saddle, his hand on his new sword, was impatient for dawn and eager to resume the journey. Yet as he dropped into slumber, he recalled Adion's dream and felt a shadow like the flutter of a dark wing. Next day the companions crossed the river Ystrad and began bearing northward. With much loud grumbling at being kept from the quest, King Smoit obeyed Gwydion and turned away from the column, riding toward Caercardan to ready his warriors. Later, the pace of the column slowed as the pleasant meadows wrinkled into hills. Shortly after midday, the horsemen entered the forest of Idris. Here the brown, withered grasses were sharp as thorns. Once familiar oaks and alders appeared strange to Taran. Their dead leaves clung to the tangled branches, and the black trunks jutted like charred bones. At length the forest broke away to reveal sheer faces of jagged cliffs. Gwydion signaled the company forward. Taran's throat tightened. For a cold instant he shrank from urging Melilas up the stony slope. He knew without a word from Gwydion that the dark gate of Anuvin was not far distant. Narrow trails rising above deep gorges now forced the company to go in single file. Taran, Adion, and Ellidyr had been jogging at the end of the column, but Ellidyr kicked his heels against Ilsilmac's flanks and thrust his way past Taran. "Your place is at the rear, pig boy," he called. "And your place is where you earn it," cried Taran, giving Melilas rein to strive ahead. The horses jostled. The riders struggled knee against knee. Ilsilmac reared and neighed wildly. With his free hand, Ellidyr seized the bridle of Melilas to force the stallion back. Taran tried to turn his mount head, but Melilas, in a shower of pebbles, slipped from the trail to the steep slope. Taran flung out of the saddle, clutched at the rocks to break his fall. Melilas, more sure-footed than his master, regained his balance on the ledge below the trail. Taran sprawled flat against the stones, tried vainly to clamber back to the path. Adion dismounted instantly, ran to the edge of the slope, and attempted to grasp Taran's hands. Ellidyr, too, dismounted. He brushed Adion aside, leapt down, and seized Taran under the arms. With a powerful heave, he lofted Taran like a sack of meal to the safety of the trail. Picking his way toward Melilas, Ellidyr put his shoulder beneath the saddle girth and strained mightily. With all his strength, little by little, he raised Melilas until the stallion was able to clamber from the ledge. "You fool!" Taran threw back at Ellidyr, racing to Melilas and anxiously examining the steed. "Has your pride crowded all the wits out of your head?" Melilas, he saw with relief, was unharmed. Despite himself, he glanced at Ellidyr in amazement and not without a certain admiration. "I've never seen such a feat of strength," Taran admitted. Ellidyr, for the moment, for the first time, seemed confused and frightened. "I did not mean for you to fall," he began. Then he threw back his head and with a mocking smile added, "My concern is for your steed, not your skin." "I, too, admire your strength, Ellidyr," Adion said sharply, "but it is your shame you prove it thus. The black beast rides in the saddle with you. I see it even now." One of Morgad's warriors, hearing the clamor, had given the alarm. A moment later, Gwydion, followed by Morgad, strode back along the trail. Behind them hurried the agitated Fluder and the dwarf. "Your pig boy had no better sense than to force his way ahead of me," Ellidyr said to Gwydion. "Had I not pulled him and his steed back—" "Is this true?" Gwydion asked, glancing at Taran in his torn clothing. Taran, about to answer, shut his lips tightly and nodded his head. He saw the look of surprise on Ellidyr's angry face. "We have no lives to waste," Gwydion said, "yet you have risked too. I cannot spare a man, or I would send you back to Caerdalma this instant, but I shall, if this happens again, and you too, Ellidyr, or any of this company." Gwydion does not play those games, especially for something as important of a quest as this is. He is not playing games. He said, y'all better play nice, or somebody's going back home. That's better. All right. King Morgad stepped forward. This proves what I had feared, Lord Gwydion. Our way is difficult, even unburdened with the cauldron. Once we gain it, I urge you not to return to Caerdalman. It would be wiser to take the cauldron north into my realm. I think, too, Morgad continued, that a number of my own warriors should be dispatched to guard our retreat. In exchange, I offer these three, he said, gesturing toward Taran, Adion, and Elendir, a place among my horsemen when I attack. If I read their faces well, they would prefer it to waiting in reserve. Yes, cried Taran, gripping his sword. Let us join the attack. Gwydion shook his head. The plan shall be as I said it. Mount quickly, we have already lost much time. King Morgad's eyes flickered. It shall be as you command, Lord Gwydion. What happened? Whispered Fluter to Tara. Don't tell me Elendir wasn't to blame somehow. He's a troublemaker. I can see it. I can't imagine what Gwydion was thinking when he brought him along. The blame is as much mine, said Taran. I behaved no better than he did. I should have held my tongue. With Elendir, he added. That's not easy to do. Yes, the bard sighed, glancing at his harp. I have a rather similar difficulty. Throughout the next day, the company went with greatest caution, for flights of Gwythates, Aurorn's fearsome messenger birds, were now seen against the clouds. Shortly before dusk, the trail led downward toward a shallow basin set with a shrub and pines. There Gwydion halted. Ahead rose the baleful crags of Darkgate, its twin slopes blazing crimson in the dying sun. Thus far the company had encountered no cauldron born. Taran deemed this lucky, but Gwydion frowned uneasily. I fear the cauldron born more when they cannot be seen, Gwydion said after calling the warriors around him. I would almost believe they had deserted Anuvan, but Dolly brings news I wish I might spare you. Had me turn invisible and run ahead, that's what he did, Dolly furiously muttered to Taran. When we go into Anuvan, I'll have to do it again. My ears already feel like a swarm of bees. Take heed, all of you, Gwydion went on. The huntsmen of Anuvan are abroad. I have faced the cauldron-born, Taran boldly cried. These warriors can be no more terrible. Do you believe so? Gwydion replied with a grim smile. I dread them much. They are ruthless as the cauldron-born, their strength even greater. They go afoot, yet they are swift, with much endurance. Fatigue, hunger, and thirst mean little to them. The cauldron-born are deathless, Taran said. If these are mortal men, they can be slain. They are mortal, Gwydion answered, though I scorn to call them men. They are the basest of warriors who have betrayed their comrades, murderers who have killed for the joy of it. To indulge their own cruelty, they have willingly chosen Aurorn's realm and have sworn allegiance to him with a blood oath even they cannot break. Yes, Gwydion added, they can be slain, but Aurorn has forged them into a brotherhood of killers and given them a terrible power. They rove in small bands, and within these companies the death of one man only adds to the strength of all the rest. So basically, kids, what that means is that the Dark Lord Aurorn has basically given the huntsmen of Anuvan the ability that if one of them goes down, all the other ones get stronger. That's very scary. So if you defeat 5 of them, that one person that's left is as strong as the 5 that went down together. It's very... Ooh. You don't want to fight that person. You don't want to... It's like being a very short kid dealing with a kid that's 6'1", 6'4", 6'5", not knowing how to fight, which fighting is never okay. I do not condone violence on this channel. I will make that very clear and have made that very clear. This is obviously a fantasy story, so violence does tend to ensue, but I do not promote violence in any type of way. But just to give that analogy to give you an idea of what these warriors are like that they're about to deal with. Shun them, Gwydion warned. Do not give battle if it is possible to avoid it. For the more you strike down, the more the others gain in strength. Even as their numbers dwindles, their power grows. Conceal yourselves now, he ordered, and sleep. Out-attack must be tonight. Restless, Tarn could barely force himself to close his eyes. When he did, it was in light, uneasy slumber. He woke with a start, groping for his sword. Adion, already awake, cautioned him to silence. The moon rode high, cold and glittering. The warriors of King Morgad's riders' train moved like shadows. There was a faint jingle of harness, the whisper of a blade drawn from its sheath. Dolly, having turned himself invisible, had departed toward Darkgate. Taran found the bard strapping his beloved harp more securely to his shoulders. I doubt I'll really need it, Fluter admitted. On the other hand, you never know what you'll be called on to do. A flam is always prepared. Shh. Beside him, Cole had just donned a close-fitting conical helmet. The sight of the stout-hearted old warrior and the cap hardly seemed enough to protect his bald friend. Filled Taran suddenly with sadness. He threw his arms around Cole and wished him good fortune. Well, my boy, said Cole, winking. Never fear, we'll be back before you know it. Then off to Caer Dallben, and the task is done. King Morgant, cloaked heavily in black, halted at Taran's side. It would have done me honor to count you among my men, he said. Gwydion has told me a little of you, and I have seen you for myself. I am a warrior, and recognize true mettle. This was the first time Morgant had ever spoken directly to him, and Taran was so taken aback with surprise and pleasure that he could not even stammer out an answer before the war leader strode away to his horse. Taran caught sight of Gwydion astride Melangar and ran to him. Let me go with you, he pleaded again. If I was man enough to sit with you in council and to come this far, I am man enough to ride with your warriors. Do you love danger so much? Asked Gwydion. Before you are a man, he added gently, you will learn to hate it. Yes, and fear it, too, even as I do. He reached down and clasped Taran's hand. Keep a bold heart. Your courage will be tested enough. Disappointed, Taran turned away. The riders vanished among the trees, and the grove seemed empty and desolate. Melalas, tethered among the other steeds, whinnied plaintively. This night will be long, Adion said, looking intently past the shadows at the brooding heights of Darkgate. You, Taran, shall stand first watch. Elidir, second until the moon is down. So you shall have more time for dreaming, Elidir said with a scornful laugh. You will find no quarrel with my dreams tonight, replied Adion good-naturedly, for I will share the watch with both of you. Sleep, Elidir, he added, or if you will not sleep, at least keep silent. Elidir angrily wrapped himself in his cloak and threw himself on the ground near Isilamak. The rowan whickered and bent her neck, nuzzling her master. The night was chill. Frost had begun to sparkle in the dark sedge, and a cloud trailed across the moon. Adion drew his sword and stepped to the edge of the trees. The white light caught his eyes, turning them brilliant as starshine. He was silent, head raised, alert as a wild creature of the forest. Do you think they've gone into Anuvin yet? Taran whispered. They should be there soon, Adion answered. I wished Gwydion had let me go with him, Taran said with a certain bitterness, or with Morgant. Do not wish that, Adion said quickly. His face held a look of concern. Why not? Asked Taran, puzzled. I would have been proud to follow Morgant. Next to Gwydion, he's the greatest warlord in Prydain. He is a brave and powerful man, Adion agreed, but I am uneasy for him. In my dream, the night before we left, warriors rode a slow circle around him, and Morgant's sword was broken and weeping blood. Perhaps there is no meaning in it, Taran suggested, as much to reassure himself as Adion. Does it always happen that your dreams always come true? Adion smiled. There is truth in all things, if you understand them well. You never told me what you dreamed of the others, Taran said. Of Cole, or good old Dolly, or yourself for the matter. Adion did not reply, but turned again and looked toward Darkgate. Unsheathing his sword, Taran moved worriedly to the edge of the grove. And that is where we're going to end for tonight. This story is going to get very interesting very quickly, and it teaches you a very real thing. And we're going to talk about this for a short period. War and battles that you hear in stories and documentaries, war is not fun. War is not easy. It is very hard. It is painful. It is dark. It is sad. And we have to remember that the men and women in our armed forces, in our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Navy SEALs, Greenpeace, military doctors and nurses, war is not fun. It was never meant to be fun. Yes, it's very interesting to hear the accolades and wonderful tellings of those who have been through it and how they have survived. But it is not fun. You lose a lot of good people that will never come back. But it is up to us, those who are at home, to commemorate those people and to give honor to their memory. War is not fun. War is dangerous. War can be heartbreaking. But sometimes, in certain situations, war can help bring about peace, can bring about joy, can save the lives of many rather than just a few. And I really needed to say, I felt like I needed to say that to clarify, even though this is a fantasy story. These stories, these legends, these myths are based off of actual battles that people had to deal with in the ancient times. And we still have our own wars, whether they're on our own shores or elsewhere across the world, even right now with Russia and the Ukraine. War is not a pleasant thing. I wish we didn't have them, but like I said, we fight not to be mean and hateful. We do it to preserve the lives of those who cannot take arms, who are not able to have the courage, nay, the training and hard work to be able to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. So as we continue to read the story, it's going to get very interesting very quickly. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to spoil anything else. I will see y'all Wednesday. I love you all so much. Bye-bye now.